Order. And now we'll call it to order. Christine, would you take roll and all that? You got all that?
So noted.
All right, well done. Okay, next on the agenda is agenda approval. Where do we stand on that?
Let's make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, the agenda is approved and public comment. Nobody in here. Is there anybody online?
Just getting there. Doesn't appear so.
All right, we are flying through this. Next is let's move on to approval of the minutes. Anybody see any problem with the minutes from last time?
No issues.
Okay, my concern is we aren't going to have minutes for this meeting. It's just going to be minute because this is just flying by. No agenda bills, so we move on to discussion. And here we get sidetracked into actually having to do our jobs. Reclaimed water system improvements project update. You gonna tell us about this one?
Yeah,
I've heard good things are happening.
Yes. Well, we've got the wastewater project that the WRF is underway on construction. That's very good. And then we were planning out the reclaimed water improvements. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So. Okay, so last time I gave a PowerPoint update on this, it was about 8 or 9 months ago. This is on our reclaimed water system improvements, which we've been we're approaching concept design on. And a lot of this is going to be a repeat from the last presentation, but a lot of people don't realize that we have a reclaimed water system in City of Snoqualmie. So I wanted to cover that again. So reclaimed water is water that's treated to a high enough quality that it's wastewater that's treated to a high enough quality that we can reuse for irrigation. And the city is able to use up to 1.5 million gallons daily, seasonally, of reclaimed water. And this system is actually the first permitted Class A water system in Washington State. It was originally constructed in 1997, and the water is treated using sand filtration and UV at the WRF wastewater plant down near our public works facility, kind of across the river there. And then it is pumped up to Eagle Lake, where it is stored and then distributed in the city's irrigation distribution system. And areas that are irrigated with reclaimed water include Community Park, the most of the Snoqualmie Parkway, the business district, and a few other right-of-ways. And then the golf course also utilizes reclaimed water for all of their irrigation.
So the water that's in Eagle Lake was in our sewer and storm drain system, was clean. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
A portion of it. Yes.
And where else did that water come from?
It's also could be stormwater. So Eagle Lake was also approved as a stormwater detention pond.
So it just collects stormwater from around Eagle Lake naturally.
Yes.
And then also the water that has been cleaned from our sewage and storm drain system.
Yes, exactly.
Any other sources for the water?
That's it.
Okay.
So, you brought up a great, that's what this project is about, is this project, our reclaim system met the 1997 requirements when we built it. And in 2018, the state upgraded the reclaimed water system requirements, called the Purple Book now. And in order to meet compliance with that, we have to store our reclaimed water in a reservoir, essentially. And the issue is they're concerned with stormwater, things that could be in stormwater, runoff from streets, sidewalks, dog poop, whatever, goose poop,
Duck poop, yeah.
could end up in that lake and would then degrade our reclaimed water. So the city is needed to build a separate reservoir to store our reclaimed water, separate it from Eagle Lake, and then distribute it to those locations where we use reclaimed water for irrigation. And that's what this reservoir will do. The golf course, they're able to, since they don't have a distribution system, they use it right on site. The reservoir will not include their portion of the reclaimed water. That'll still flow to Eagle Lake.
Okay, so if
They don't mind the goose poop.
So if there's water being used in places, the water that's going to be used in places other than the golf course has to be stored in a reservoir to protect it from duck poop?
Yes.
Yes, and it comes down to the distribution system because we have a reclaimed water distribution system. So if we need to maintain our distribution system, we can't have this open reservoir connected to it. And that distribution system is a piping that runs, it runs up Fairway, it runs along Center Street, it runs up the Parkway.
Business park.
But when he says reservoir though, it's a contained so that
Covered,
ducks can't get to it.
right?
Okay, so that's the whole reason for this is to isolate it from external input.
And the concern is that those contaminants could mess up our machinery? Or is there, what is the concern exactly?
It's really it's a risk standpoint that ecology has established these regulations to reduce risk of contaminated water
It's
being,
basically a
you know.
public health concern that if you're going to use reclaimed water in public areas for irrigation, that it be cleaned enough not to potentially be contaminated and a health issue for those who might accidentally get water in their mouth.
It seems like this could be handled with a sign that says, "Don't run in the sprinklers."
Well, yeah, it's actually more than that. So it's a mandate.
Yeah.
It's the reclaimed water rule, which was implemented by ecology. And I think Andrew's going to talk about that.
I'm not blaming Andrew for
Yeah.
this. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of if this is just people with phony baloney jobs trying to justify them, or if there's a real reason that this needs to be done. Because my guess is the price tag on this is not $150.
Yeah, correct. And that was our concern at first. And we fought this tooth and nail. This goes clear back to Mayor Larson days. And we exhausted every opportunity. And, this is the best deal that we could come up with. This is a rather complex issue because the prospect of chlorinating our irrigation system for reclaimed water is just not tenable. We can't do it. If we were to put the amount of chlorine that we would have to put in the water would, one, kill all the vegetation close in. Right. And two, we would have to change our irrigation system because where you have to monitor it is out at the end, last sprinkler on the line. And our sprinkler system discharges every night. Right. So you can't keep it under pressure and you can't keep a chlorine residual in it anyway. So it just wouldn't work. So we had to come up with a compromise. This was the best compromise solution.
But am I wrong in feeling like the ecology people are working hard to make it impossible for us to do the right things for the ecology?
yeah,
That's a good argument.
Jeff said, as you mentioned, this goes back. Reclaimed water is complex and it's actually regulated by both ecology and.
It's
Department
actually
of
so
Health.
not complex. It's like, it's really simple. But it sounds like we have governmental organizations above us working very hard to make it expensive.
I would propose that the regulatory environment is very complex.
Yeah. I think,
Also not complex, but okay.
I also think there's places in the world where this is a real concern. We've been running a reclaimed water system up here for 20 years and we've never had any recorded.
How many
incidents of
health
anybody getting sick.
incidents have we had?
None recorded.
Yeah, we do have everything signed, as you can see here in the photo. We operate it only between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. to
Anybody
eliminate.
who wants to run through the sprinklers at that point wants to get sick. They want to get sick.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
You can't just protect the intelligent people.
Yeah, but nobody's actually that stupid. I don't mind protecting stupid people too, but not imaginarily stupid people. Actually stupid people.
So the point we're at now is that we do have a mandate, as Jeff mentioned.
You
in
understand that
our-
I'm
in our
not mad at
permit.
you, right? You understand that, right?
Out with everybody.
Well, I do want to let you know why, because it's not $150, and that we have a mandate, we have a timeline to implement these requirements, and that's what this project is about. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry to sidetrack you. Go ahead.
So we did have an engineering report describing these improvements submitted to Ecology last year. It was approved, accepted. They did grant us what's the word I'm looking for, Jeff? For the chlorination, essentially
Oh, an exclusion or
Ex-
exception, yeah.
exception. So that's putting a reservoir in is better than operating a whole new chlorination system. So that was a win. And then we laid out the sizing of this reservoir. It'll be about 400,000 gallons, 0.4 million gallon reservoir. It'll be a concrete reservoir located near Eagle Lake. There'll be site improvements, and we're looking at replacing the irrigation pump station. So currently there's an irrigation pump station near Eagle Lake, and after looking at the condition of it and what it would take to tie into it, it makes most sense to build a new one at the site of this new reservoir. And this is all to continue operation of a reclaimed water system and provide these water supply and water quality benefits. So we've been working on a siting study to determine where is this reservoir going to go. And we looked a lot along the BPA road there, underneath the BPA power lines, on the golf course adjacent to Eagle Lake, at the WRF, and the site that we've honed in on and we're looking at doing these improvements at is along the BPA easement there, which is to the right. You can see the road.
What did you say, DPA or BPA?
BPA,
What?
Bonneville Power.
EPA.
Bonneville Power.
Bonneville Power. So
Okay.
the power line, the overhead
Okay.
power lines near the golf course.
I didn't know that acronym. Thank you.
Yeah, and so it would be between the power lines and Ridge Street there, as you're basically, if you're heading down Ridge Street and you tee into Eagle Lake Drive, just as you're approaching the golf course, there's a triangle that's undisturbed, and we've approached the golf course with this plan. They don't have any major concerns. We would be retaining a tree visual barrier along Ridge Street, and then access would be from the east side, which would be the BPA Power Road, and that site would include both the reservoir and the new pump station. And then budget. So we've been trying to hone in on the budget. We're at about 30% design on this, and the two latest options we looked at was building this reservoir on that parcel, putting a new transmission main along Eagle Lake Drive, and then connecting it to the existing pump station, which is near Eagle Lake. And the cost for that was estimated 8.3 million. That's option A. And then option B, which would include a total new irrigation pump station and eliminate the transmission main along Eagle Lake Drive, would be 8.6 million. And both these costs are over our CIP project budget that we currently have. We're going to be incorporating these costs into our current rate study and our upcoming CIP update.
On the property, do we know who owns the property?
Yes, it's the golf course.
Okay.
We've had a couple meetings with golf course staff and let them know that we've been working with them through the siting study to find a good site. So we would like to purchase that property outright, given the size of these improvements. So when we've let them know that, we'll be probably working through negotiations and setting a deal for that.
So, pardon me, would that be in addition to these construction costs? Purchase of the land?
Purchasing is not included in these numbers, where we need to figure out what that purchasing cost would look like.
This is paid for from the utilities fund, yes?
Yes.
So what is the expected impact on, will it only be water bill funds that this would come from?
So when we do the utility rate study, one of the things that we're going to try to capture is the cost of producing reclaimed water, which we don't currently do. We don't have that, and we have not tied the cost of reclaimed water to the cost of producing it. So we'll be probably likely adjusting the rates for the reclaimed water to help pay for these costs.
Is the reclaimed water going to end up being more expensive than regular potable water?
Oh, no. No, we won't be able to capture all the cost in it, but we are going to at least have a basis for determining a cost of reclaimed. Because right now we're selling it at bulk rates, which, I don't even know how close it can't even come close to what it costs to produce it.
We made the conscious decision in the past to keep the cost of irrigation less than the cost of potable water, so that they don't run their hoses out the door to do the grass in front of, like a homeowner does.
I guess what my real question is the actual cost of potable water going to be lower than the actual cost, not what we're charging, but the actual cost? Is it more expensive to reclaim water and use it at this point with these kinds of?
No.
No, we're still gonna generate reclaimed water. That's the output of the sewer system.
Right.
And a lot of the costs are embedded in the operation of that sewer system. Okay, and it's just, instead of dumping it in the river, we dump it over here into Eagle Lake and put it out, and we get some offset in
return.
irrigation.
We're going to have to clean the water regardless, and we're at least getting some of it back.
There's a little additional treatment, right, with the sand filtration and the UV. I think the level of UV treatment that we provide for reclaimed water is higher. And then there's the pumping cost to pump it up the hill and maintenance of that equipment. But really, the cost of the reclaimed above the cost of producing just wastewater or treating wastewater is not hugely significant. But we have never really costed that out, and we've never really tied our rates to the cost of producing it. So we need to kind of sort that out so that we can adjust our rates and have a basis for adjusting our rates.
You have a zillion things to say, but I have one other question, and you can answer it in whatever order you want, because I know you have other things that you want to say. But how long is this reservoir expected to exist without major remodel, repair, that sort of thing? Answer that when you get to it.
I mean, Jeff, you got more experience, but a concrete reservoir, 50 years.
The reservoir itself will have a design life of 50 years and it'd be expected to last at least 100 years, but there will be ongoing maintenance for the pumping systems and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's not hugely significant. Pipelines, pumps require routine maintenance, but we'll be pumping that water up the hill no matter what. And then once it gets to the reservoir, there will be a type of a flow splitter, which is completely gravity fed. So there's really no significant maintenance on those things other than just routine, adjustments to them. So really, it's not extensive.
And you asked the question about, where does this money come from? We are looking to, increase bring our irrigation rates up to the current market requirements, but water and sewer subsidize reclaimed water. And there's a reason that they do, because reclaimed water provides an alternative way to dispose of, instead of discharging to the river, we're now reusing this water. So there's a benefit to the sewer utility in that way. And then at the same time, we don't have unlimited water supply. So this provides an offset of our potable water during summer when, demand is the highest and sources could be threatened by drought. So it also supplements our water system. So that there's a reason that those subsidize the utility.
What was that annual amount? It's like 12 million.
12 million
Yeah.
gallons.
Right.
Yeah.
So 12 million gallons a year that we would use potable water is offset by using reclaimed water. And since we're discharging it to the river, we're actually using it to collect revenue rather than just discharging it in the river. So it's a good deal for us.
I love that. I'm still gonna be mad.
We did get good news, some good news on the funding side of things. We applied for some state funding through the Combined Water Quality Fund in the fall, and we requested 6.8 million, and we received the full 6.8 million in a loan. So this is a low interest loan. That's what is available for reclaimed water projects in Washington State. They don't have grant funding in Washington for state funding available for that, but it's a 0.6% interest rate, 5-year loan. And the funds can be applied for both design and construction costs. So we made the draft offer list. There's a public comment period on that draft offer list that's open until March 4th. I wanted to let you guys be aware of that. If you guys have any comments that you would like us to pass along, we'd be welcome to do that. And
I have
then
comments. I don't know that you'd want to pass them along.
and then the final state funding offer list is expected in June. And we'll be working with Dylan to incorporate any loans into our rate study and how that could, lessen the burden of this capital cost. So next, we applied for that state funding. We've got our engineering report approved, and then we're going to be working on design this year on the reservoir and the improvements. We'll have the final designs. We need to submit those to Ecology by December 31st, and the construction will be underway in 2025 and 2026 for these improvements. With that, any
And you're
additional-
not gonna have any problem hitting those deadlines, right?
I don't think
we don't foresee any. I mean, it'll be I think we have a good consultant working on this, and we're working as fast as it can be done, and keeping, Ecology in the loop. It's their mandate, and maintaining those progress updates.
So you're taking it to council on the 4th?
I was just gonna.
Oh, that's a
This was
public
just-
comment deadline.
That's a
Okay,
public
never mind.
comment, yeah. I could present this to council. I just have it slotted for committee right now, but I'll leave that up to council.
one of the options on the cost, you'll notice that option A is, well, both the costs are pretty equivalent, but option A is slightly less expensive than option B, yet we're kind of recommending option B. Reason being, option A, we have a shared pump station. The golf course and the city are both using the same pump station. Both those pump stations are in disrepair. The pumping equipment, all of the piping, and all of the electrical equipment are basically at the end of their life, and they're pretty shot. So the golf course needs to redo their pumping station altogether. Theirs is a real mess. And so they're looking at potentially building a new one or gutting it and redoing the one that they have. And they're kind of weighing those costs, and they believe that it's going to be less expensive, I think, at this point, to build a new one. So they're thinking about abandoning that building altogether. That would leave us kind of hanging on to that old decrepit facility. Well, in order to reuse that, we would need to build a pipeline from our reservoir somewhere near the top of the hill. If it's on our site, we still have to build a pipe that goes from that reservoir to the pump station, because we can't pull out of the Eagle Lake anymore. So that's a fairly good sized pipe, and it is going to be a little bit impactful to dig that thing in along Eagle Lake and then underneath, Eagle Lake Drive and to connect to the pump station. Not to mention that all of the work that would have to be done in that pump station. So that is why we're considering the new pump station option at the facility. That way we separate ourselves from the mess that's happening at that existing pump station and separate ourselves from the golf course's operation altogether. So it makes it a little bit cleaner operation for us. Plus, I think that we would have a better pump station in the end, rather than trying to reuse that old building with its poor dry well configuration and all that.
What has caused that pump station to fall into disrepair?
Mostly age,
How old is it?
and about 20 years old. I think 96 or
So you were
97.
talking about this being a 50-year reservoir. That was just for the reservoir itself,
Right.
not for the equipment that would,
The
that
pump
was,
station equipment is, yeah. a pump
That's
station
separate. That doesn't have as long a lifespan.
No.
Okay.
No, not typically. And they typically require quite a bit of maintenance. Pump stations require maintenance. I mean, they do. if
And
the
this
pump-
one that we're talking about has not been properly maintained, or it's just at the end of its lifespan?
I think that it's at the end of its lifespan, but also because we're pumping out of a lake. So pumping out of a lake is problematic. One, the hydraulics are a little bit different. And the way we draw water from that reservoir, Eagle Lake Reservoir, is kind of a goofy configuration where we have this pipe manifold underneath there. It's not something that we would ever design for a public facility. This was a developer designed facility. That is why the golf course is considering abandoning it as well, because just the cost of restoring those dry wells, or the wet wells rather, that they pump from, is expensive. To dig out underneath that building and reconfigure all that, it's going to be really expensive. And also pumping out of a lake is problematic because you tend to pull up a bunch of garbage that gets deposited in that lake. Ideally, we'd like to get out of maintaining that lake as much as possible and maintaining that system. I think that creates more problems for us. So by just building our own pump station in close proximity to our own reservoir, then we are completely separate from the golf course's operation. And they will continue to pump out of the lake, but then we won't have this shared facility that, where the golf course is looking potentially to us to help them out with their pump station issues.
Councilmember Cotton.
Yes, just, so it sounds like the golf course actually owns that pump station and we have a use
I
with
think
them,
we
joint
share
use?
that. I think we own half of it. There's literally 2 pump stations in one building.
Okay,
There's a wall in between them. All right. And it's one big concrete block or a box, let's say, right? And it's got 2 compartments to it with 2 separate doors, access, and nothing in between. All of the equipment that's the city's is connected only to the city stuff. Everything that's golf course is connected only to the golf course.
so we're
and
both
it-
drafting out of the.
Pulling
same
out of the
lake
lake.
with the same contaminants and everything
Right.
like that, okay.
Right.
Is there any legal issue to us abandoning that and saying we no longer need to use that building, so we're not going to participate in its repair?
We looked at the contract and there is no legal issue that we can see, and the golf course is okay with it too. Right. So we actually have been talking to the golf course about it. And
Maybe we could trade them our half of that building for this little triangle of land that we need.
yeah, I think we'd have to pay them to take that.
I think they may also be looking at relocating their
They'd
pump
like to
station.
relocate their pump station, I think.
So-
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a mess. That old building is, like, all of the equipment is rusted out. And it's become a maintenance hog for both of us.
Well, they can have it for a song.
So that is why we're recommending option B. It's just, I think in the long term, it actually makes, reduces our maintenance burden and costs, associated costs.
This is, we're updating our reclaimed water system plan, which one of the things included in a system plan is a system evaluation and a list of CIP projects needed to maintain the utility. And we haven't made any major capital investments in the Class A system since it was constructed in 1997. So, we have one of the oldest systems in the state, and we're bringing it up to current standards.
All right, is that everything on your presentation?
Yeah, thank you for your questions and interest.
Councilman Holloway, anything? Okay, so then the plan is to bring this forward to council on the 4th, or what were you saying the plan was?
I was gonna leave it up to administration and council staff. I didn't have it slotted in the calendar for that. I'd probably summarize it a little bit more.
Well, we'll circle back with Drew and find out timing to get the decision on whether or not we're gonna accept that loan.
Okay, I would love, and maybe this is a Drew question. I would like to know what it costs for us to make sure there's not any duck poop in the water that we're watering Community Park with in the middle of the night. I would like to know what it costs the average household annually for fear that there might be one poop in that water. Because I think that citizens deserve to know where they're getting shafted on these things. We're about to look at the rate study, and rates are about to go up. And I don't like it when rates go up. I don't know anybody who does. So I would like to be able to say, hey, part of the problem is totally out of our hands. It's coming from above. What did you want to say?
Well, other than it's not every household, well, I don't know of any household that gets irrigation water. It's a select number of private parties, the ROA, the business park, and the golf course.
The
There's some-
Parkway,
Parkway,
yeah.
which is us.
Yeah, right.
So there's only 4 who should be the recipients of this cost.
Right, but us is them. You know, the Parkway, that's something that the citizens have to pay for. That's water that the citizens have to pay for. And so, but it sounds to me like what you're suggesting is that at least in the residential water bills, this shouldn't affect that.
It shouldn't affect it, with one caveat, in that we, at times in the past, we have artificially kept the irrigation rates low, which means, that cost goes somewhere. So it gets covered in the other rates. Bringing them up a little bit. What that figure is, I don't know that we ever did that calculation. We set the irrigation, set the irrigation rates, and we set the water rates. And it was kind of, we're throwing the reclaimed water over to irrigation, and there was kind of a imaginary wall there.
I mean, I think one thing that this goes back to, we use 12 million gallons of reclaimed water each summer for irrigation. If we don't have this reclaimed water utility, that's 12 million gallons that's coming out of our potable water system that we really don't have.
Totally agree. Does
Yeah.
not mean that this mandate is legitimate. That does not make this mandate. You're right that it's good that we reclaim water. I agree with that. But that doesn't make these phony, oh, come on, it's just another 8 million. That, 8 million here, 8 million there, pretty soon you're talking about real money. Councilmember Cotton.
So, quick question, what type of water are we using for the splash pad?
We're using potable
It
water.
will be
We're not
filled
using
with
reclaimed.
potable.
Okay,
And added chlorine.
It's effectively a swimming pool.
Oh.
So the makeup water will be potable water.
okay, but.
It's a research system.
Okay, all right, because it is true, as a veterinarian, I can attest to zoonotic disease, bacteria, viruses, parasites are very transmissible from the environment, from wildlife, from domestic animals to humans.
How many cases of that have we had from the reclaimed water over the last 27 years?
It would be something you get from the public health department for
And-
things like leptospirosis and various parasites, intestinal parasites, Giardia.
I had that one.
Yeah, so
Did you get it from
Nope.
running through the park at midnight?
Nope.
That's, yeah.
Nope. I went for flood recovery. in North Dakota in '97.
Was there any Snoqualmie water there?
Only the water I took.
I just want to circle back and completely answer your question. So the splash pad will have a chlorine system, will have sand filters, and will have a UV system also.
Okay,
So
so we shouldn't let our dogs play there either.
no, dogs are not going to be permitted in the splash pad.
Good luck.
Yeah. with that.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's gonna be
That's my child.
that'll be a discussion, but all right.
With Department of Public Health, that's not a city.
Mr. Vining, anything else?
That's it.
Thank you. That was excellent.
Yes.
What's next? We've got Tyler's asset management update.
Sure. Okay. So we're on schedule. Actually, we're ahead of progress on that, or ahead of schedule on our progress. So up till now, we've been working on what we call the asset registry, which is basically figuring out all of the assets the city owns within the public works realm. And then getting it into the registry, which means providing different codes, categories, and types of assets so that we can place it into the system so that we can recall it, query it as needed in order to track it. So we are actually ahead of schedule on that. We finished this we just had a session last week and finished up that whole asset registry. So that's good. So we were not supposed to be done with that until the end of that session. So we got done with that and moved ahead. And now we're working on the work order system. So it's kind of two parts, and Mike will probably weigh in on this one. But one is trying to get a handle on all of your assets. And then there's the work order system, which is how we go about
Maintaining?
maintaining. You're right. That's right. It's the maintenance, but then tracking, right?
Documented.
Yeah, documenting and tracking where we spend our money, and then.
And
where
by
we-
assets, are you speaking very broadly? Does this include fleet and,
Yes.
the water reclamation and?
Almost like inventory,
Okay.
right? But with assets.
How,
we-
how deep does it go? Like 18 monkey bars,
Pumps, valves, distribution boxes.
everything?
The more
irrigation valves.
detailed, the better, but there's like some diminishing returns with that. So at some point it goes from an asset to like inventory. So it's just like disposable items or consumables, that sort of thing. Light bulbs, we're not going to track
Consumable.
every light bulb, right? Those are a batch, right? So that's one of the things that we're figuring out. So none of us really understand they're asking us questions and asking us to make decisions on, we don't know what we don't know. So we're asking them to kind of guide us through this process. Luckily, Mike's done this before, so he can help us kind of take
Is
short.
there anything you can't do?
Yes, he went
Yeah,
through
work
that.
on cars.
You did the pain. Yeah, he experienced the pain for us. So we are actually ahead of the game on that. And I think we have a good manager. We have a good consultant helping us out with it. So I think that, we're on track and our guys are doing the homework. They've accepted and actually have adopted it. And they're like, let's get on with it already. Let's get
Was there a
going.
danger that they would not accept it?
Well, that's what happened last time, when we did Springbrook, they started down the road and it was not a full-hearted attempt, and they ran into glitches and the city didn't follow up and maintain it, and they just dropped it. They just
Is
stopped
Tyler a
using it.
good system?
Tyler is a good system, I think. Yeah.
So there's no danger of us letting this fall off. We're gonna see this one through.
We're definitely going to see it through. Yeah.
Okay.
We see the benefits in it already.
What's the chief benefit?
It'll allow us to better track how we spend our money and how we spend our time. Right. So that lets us become more efficient. If I want to know, how much money have we spent in labor on X, right? Then I can figure out ways to reduce. If I see that we're spending too much money or too much time on one thing, then I can figure out whether or not we can implement some new technology to offset that and actually,
And without a system like this, you might have a project that's bleeding us of money without actually being
guessing.
able to
Yeah,
track it.
That's right. We just
Okay.
guess sometimes about, how much money does it cost us to do this? We don't know because we don't track it. We don't have any good way of tracking it.
The other advantages, and part of this is coming in the future, because we're just now starting. but we're able to track history of pumps, the distribution pumps we were just talking about. Each one of them is an asset, and we can track the repair history of those pumps. And we all know every once in a while, manufacturers manufacture a lemon. And maybe we have a lemon pump that we're just sinking money in and always repairing. And, we have different people working on it. We really aren't catching that. Tyler's going to help capture that data for us, so we can make that decision. Hey, maybe we should just get that pump out of here.
Are there locations where pumps fail more often than others? That sort of thing? Is that the kind of,
We'll be able to tell
Tyler-
that in the future.
and you might be able to find, oh, we really need a stronger pump in this location.
Maybe there's a bad design, maybe it's undersized. Exactly. Another component that Tyler will do is actually give time back to staff. 20% of time is usually spent following up with a citizen about a request or a complaint, etc. Tyler will actually automate those processes where a citizen can use the phone to report a pothole. It's going to go in and automatically fill out a work order that's going to pop up on Tim's desk, who's the manager for streets. Tim's going to review it, add whatever detail he needs to do, and then assign it immediately to somebody to respond to. It pops up on their computer,
Their
on their
tablet.
work list. They go out there, when they get
And
there.
nobody ever has to talk to anybody.
No.
Oh,
When
it's
they
a
get
beautiful
there-
world.
When they get there, they click on the computer that they're on site. Well, it sends an email immediately or a text to the citizen saying, we're on site responding to your concern. When the work's done, they click a button, say, we're all done. Sends an email to the citizen saying it's been repaired. And a manager's not having to spend a lot of their day doing those follow-ups, so you don't get those phone calls saying, hey, I reported this problem to Public Works, but they never called me back. Usually it's because we have so many calls, we don't have time to call them back.
Right.
But so that's one of the advantages to this. There are a ton of advantages. The personnel costs will be able to be tracked for projects. So when they fill out their time cards, it's going to hit projects. We can code time to track time closer. It's a very strong program.
The other thing that I really like about it is that proactive maintenance equals prolonged service life. So that this program actually will give reminders to staff about when certain things, if you have a maintenance interval, say for pumps or for valves or for whatever, everything has a maintenance interval. So you can actually, for every asset, you can put in a maintenance interval for it. And so a reminder pops up to the supervisor saying, this pump needs service, right? So that way it doesn't get forgotten. And so routine maintenance means that that pump is going to function longer without needing repairs. It won't eat itself to death, right? It don't want to chew itself up, or a valve won't get stuck because it's getting exercised, that sort of thing. So just being able to track that and being more proactive in its maintenance is going to equate to lower costs in the long run.
It also, a supervisor could decide on a task, if it's a sensitive task or a complicated task, you can set up a checklist in there that the employee has to follow exactly and check off each box before they go to the next one as they work through that work order, so that that complicated task is being done correctly each time. I used to use those a ton at my former airport that I managed, because there were tasks that
You
My
also
s-
managed an airport.
13 years. My staff they would forget parts of a very complicated critical task for the airport. And so we put that checklist in and stopped those problems.
Okay, so and your report is that we're ahead of schedule with the
Implementation.
implementation.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And the last thing anything else?
No.
Last thing on our discussion list is director report, staffing and project status. Anything to report?
Quickly, projects. So Centennial Park, we are into the final stages. So gravel is just about complete and they're going to be doing I think they're for sure they'll be starting on the turf this week. And
This is on the all-inclusive park.
Inclusive Park at Centennial, yeah. And then so we should have the turf completed next week and they'll be starting on fencing. So we'll be close to the end in about 2 weeks.
And you were commenting last night that you're very pleased with the level of work.
The quality of work is good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the contractor is, I mean, he's a little goofy, but he's actually getting the work done in a very, he's doing good work. I'm happy with it. We're, Dylan's managing the project and Dylan's doing a good job managing a contractor who's sometimes a little bit, not super active on the project, but Dylan's keeping him honest. So he's doing good. And I'm pretty happy with the way the work's being conducted. They're maintaining the site pretty well. It's a muddy site, so we're getting some track out. I mean, it's a park, so it's never great to have, that kind of a job in the middle of winter in a park. You're going to get, some mud and some dirt and some track out, but they're doing a good job trying to keep it clean. And after they get the gravel down, they'll do initial sweep on it and it'll look a lot better. So by next week, I think that site will be looking really good. So, yeah, pretty happy with it.
What's a good day to drive by and?
I'd go by now because you can see it. Yeah. Next week would be an even better time to go because you'll see a lot of the turf will be down by next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
And then,
For Easter,
Yeah.
the Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have it quite ready for the
March
kids to play
30th.
on it yet, but we'll hope so.
Yeah, March.
So when are you thinking it's going to be an April opening?
I think that we're hoping for ribbon cutting early April.
Early April.
We'll see. What we can
Maybe we can accelerate.
Hey, maybe you could talk to that Tyler guy. Maybe he can speed you up.
do. I'm gonna go straight to the Easter Bunny.
And then water reclamation, our WRF Phase 3 that Andrew's working on, that is actually a really good project. Do you want to give a quick update on where we're at with that?
I share some photos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try to keep
There's a lot going on out there right now.
because I get excited about this one, but
About $1 million a minute.
so it's going really well. We've got a really good contractor team, consultant team. We've had some good milestones, and I think we're about three months ahead of the original schedule. So we're looking at a startup later this summer of the new process. Just this week, they started cutting up the half of the oxidation ditches there. Make this any bigger. And lifting out pretty big slabs of concrete with this boom crane. This was just this afternoon. Got a nice rainbow behind the crane. It's a big operation. They're going to be in a couple weeks. They'll be pouring new walls, partition walls inside the basins there.
It's the most romantic crane shot I've seen in a while.
A lot of romantic shots at a wastewater facility. You'd be surprised.
And is that what in that last photo? If you could take your eyes off of that beautiful crane and the rainbow, is that going to be a new tank or 2 new tanks?
It's going to be about 5 new tanks.
Oh, wow.
So there will be 5 or 6 new walls going in there, and each tank will have its own conditions.
Right. Okay.
For the process, and they'll start pouring that in a couple weeks. They've got a good plan for that.
Do they have to just do it a tank at a time and move it along sequentially?
It'll be 4 concrete pours, and they'll do a few walls each pour. So we had a big electrical phase where we had to actually install or shut down the whole wastewater plant to install a breaker a couple weeks ago. And we had a very robust plan and did the work in the middle of the night to limit the amount of flows coming in, and that went perfectly as planned. These guys that did the work are my heroes. They did a really good job. Our operators were there middle of the night, shutting things down, operating the plant.
That's a big deal to shut down a wastewater treatment plant. We actually had to get permissions.
What are the fleshiest times a day?
But well, the diurnal curve shows like a big push in the morning when people are taking showers and then a big.
I've had a big push in the
flow.
morning.
Right, yeah, right. And then in the evenings, that's when you want to do a shutdown because there's the least flow. And so we had to basically have the least amount of pumping and the least amount of electrical load on the system. So that's when we shut it down. We use generators to keep critical systems going, but for the most part, to take it offline, you have.
How long was it offline?
It was about 9 PM to 1 AM and took them about 4 hours to hook up the generators ahead of time. They got, one of these is called a motor control center. So it's about a 6-foot tall breaker. They installed it in about 3 hours and got everything back up and going. So I think we had allotted till about 6 AM. So they got it done ahead of schedule. And the new blower building, we got the blowers inside. Those are about 6.5 feet tall. There's 4 of them. Those will be the new heart and lungs of the new process.
Now, is that blowing oxygen into the water?
Air.
It will be, yeah.
Okay,
air.
right. Air. Okay.
And there'll be backups and a lot of plants are moving towards this. We're not the only one in the state.
It was tight. It was
Neato.
really tight.
I gotta go on another tour.
Yeah, you should definitely go see it now. Right now is a good time to see it.
Yeah, it'll be real exciting when they get these walls going. So it's going, yeah. Very happy with the team.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, if this was the heart and the lungs, then all that piping is the blood vessels of the.
Let's hope. Let's hope it's not the intestines.
Intestinal tract.
Some of it's the electrical.
There's a nervous system
I
in
think
there
she's talking
too.
about
And the blood flow.
electrical conduit.
Yeah, a lot of electrical conduit. So good electrician. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I think that takes us to the end of our agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. No, I'm just entertaining the motion.
Oh, okay.
So move. She's second.
Okay, all right. We seconded it first and then moved. All right, then we are adjourned. No,
Yeah.
adjourned.